There is a growing disbelief and indeed anger in my community about the state government's plans to redevelop the North Parramatta Heritage Precinct. The planning process has been, shall we say, more for show than substance, with a very brief period over the Christmas break for people to have a look at the plans. But when you look at the plans, we are all incredibly appalled. The North Parramatta precinct contains some 70 heritage buildings. It contains more heritage buildings than the Rocks. It contains 3 buildings from the 1700s. It contains, and it's been in public hands since colonisation. In fact, it is the best collection of colonial history in Australia by far. It contains the female convict factory designed by Greenway, the first convict factory in Australia. It contains the Gips Yard, where convict women were taken straight from the boat and put to work on their first day. It contains the Roman Catholic orphanage, where the children of those convict women were kept right back in the early colonial years. You look at the plans that this government has, and it's essentially to sell off this land. They claim that they're selling the land in order to fund their heritage work. For some reason, North Parramatta has to be self-contained when it comes to heritage, where the rest of the country seems to think that maintaining our heritage is actually a national responsibility. But for North Parramatta, the land itself has to cover the cost of maintaining some of the most significant heritage buildings in the country. But what they're really doing is selling it off. They're selling the land inside the Gips Yard and putting a 6-storey and a 12-storey building inside the yard where the convict women were first taken, an intact courtyard where the convict women lived and worked. They're selling the land, which includes Australia's first children's hospital, a beautiful little building, looks like a chocolate box. There'll be a 12-storey building within metres of it. There'll be a 12-storey building within 50 metres of an endangered flying fox species. I mean, it's an extraordinary land grab. 6,000 residential units going up on what is Australia's most significant heritage precinct in the country, without any consideration of how those people get in or out of the area, without any consideration of the schooling needs, but particularly without any plans whatsoever about how these heritage buildings are going to be protected. Quite a few of them are not on the National Register. In fact, most of them are not on the National Heritage Register. The state government has resisted putting them on that because, in the words of one of the local members, heritage listing impedes development. And, Deputy Speaker, yes it does, and yes it should. In this case, our colonial heritage should not be sold off for the cheapest price to fill the coffers of the state government so they can spend it elsewhere. It's national heritage and it should be protected, and I urge the state government to rethink.